Good morning, or rather evening, depending if you're still up or not. It is Wednesday, January 25th of 2017. If you're wondering what I've been doing here lately, not really doing a lot of tutorials. I've been kind of busy here lately. But a couple of weeks ago, I started on my main pet project. And I haven't got to work on it here in the last couple of weeks. I started working on it this little bit ago, debugging it, trying to get some kinks out of it. But I'll go ahead and show you what I have. So you might be wondering why I have a test py folder here. Well, I made it so I wouldn't have to keep messing around with my home py folder. So that's going to be my mock home py folder. Let's see. Just to show you the code real quick. So my project that I've been working on is called Rubian, which I've read online a few times about how Ruby just isn't good for making a operating system, and well, because of how the interpreter handles the garbage collection and dumps the RAM. Well, I can kind of see this in excuse me, on like PC, well, desktop and laptops, 86 or 32 or 64-bit normal processors, or what we would consider everyday processors. But I said challenge accepted, and was starting to build a base for a Ruby operating system for the Raspberry Pi. So here's my code here, some of it. So far I have 625 lines of code. Now this is the installer script. Now what's so cool about mine is, I guess it could be more referred to as a generator instead of an installer. Most installers usually copy, paste, and create directories where it needs into your machine, and just and compiles all the information. What mine does actually checks to see if there are any of the directories existing. If they do not exist, they create them, and then they create the files and write the code to the files. So basically, in my installer is my Ruby script is really creating all of my script file or gem files that is needed for the Rubian application. Not going to go into a whole depth or detail into what everything is, but like right here, write Rubian core, directory, change directory, home, user login name, which I'll explain to that here in a minute, desktop, that's test py. So once I'm ready to release this, it won't be desktop test py, it would be home and the new user login name, so that last part won't be added to it. And then after it creates it, after it changes the directory, it creates a file, names it, and then I tell my program to write to it. And then here's the code that I'm telling it to write to it. And these are all the other scripts that are used with the application. So in the Rubian core, it loads up all of the gems that is needed for the Rubian to run correctly. Here's the this through here is how is to write the gem in order to interact with directories. So instead of having to do the Ruby dir.mkdir to make one, I refined the process, and you'll see how it works here in a minute. But this is pretty much how my installer works. So without further ado, once I have it on GitHub, you can go through and look at the source code if you're interested on how I did this. But to go ahead and show you how it works, make sure, yep, it's empty. Okay, so we're going to say you're in a terminal or you're in the bash shell, and when you boot up your Pi and you're in the command line interface, you don't have RetroPie or Raspbian running. What you would do is you would get it from git clone, the installer, and then you'll run it. As you can see, very nice, well, a nice interface. I'm still tinkering with it here and there, but it's going to ask you if you want to go with the install. If you press no, it'll exit out. Press Y, it continues it. So the first thing it does is it prompts for the user login. So if you've changed the default user login or made another one other than the default Pi user, then you can, this accommodates for this. So I know most people just stick with the default Pi user, or they make 2 or 3 other users for certain reasons. So this allows the installer to write it to the correct user. So we go ahead and put in Pi, and if you misspell it like this, it will throw an error. User login is incorrect, try again. So first thing it does is it starts running through. The first thing it will do, I don't have that commented out at the moment, but it will update the Ruby interpreter if you have not done that already. It ensures that the all Ruby core gem files, everything that Ruby needs to run on the Pi is up to date. Then it creates the .bash aliases folder, and then it creates the Rubian core main gem for the Rubian program. And then after it gets done with that, as you can see, it will prompt up with a Rubian installation configuration. So the way that this is set up, if you just have Raspbian, or you're using like Ubuntu Mate other than Raspbian, if you're using a desktop environment on your Pi, a Linux desktop environment on your Pi, I haven't set it up for the Windows 10 IoT. So this is strictly for the Debian Linux distributions. So if you just have Raspbian or Ubuntu Mate or any other variation of a desktop environment, you would press 1. If you just have RetroPie as a standalone, that's all you have on your Pi, you would press 2. Or if you have Raspbian or RetroPie, you would, like I do, you would press 3. So what this does is, depending on which option you have, it will generate the commands depending on what you put in here. So if you put in the Raspbian, it will not put in the RetroPie command, startup command. If you put in the RetroPie command, it will not put in the startx command to boot into Raspbian or into a desktop environment. If you put 3, it will add both the startx and emulation station commands. As you see, generating commands for the RPI settings. Is Kodi installed? It will prompt you for this. So if you have one, you probably won't. If you just have Raspbian, you probably didn't install Kodi. If you just have RetroPie, you might have installed Kodi. So this This is asking if you have installed it or not. And depending on if you press yes, it will add the Kodi command, well, the start command for Kodi into the command line gem, or if you don't, it will negate it. So that's done. So if we open up our test Pi, as you can see, we have our Rubian core, our bash.aliases, which is, I don't think I have anything wrote. Yep, with the command all ready to go. So when you go to reboot your Pi, it will automatically run the Rubian core. So give it a test run. So with the bash.aliases, this is what you'll see when you boot up your Pi next into the command line. Or when you open up a terminal in your desktop environment, it will automatically load up IRB with the Rubian gem, already ready to go. Very easy, simple interface at this point in time. As you can see, I even made it color coded. Puts the date and time, and then the beta version, yes. CMD list, main menu, and install utility. I still need to make the install utility. But other than that, which that's going to be for like installing other scripts like ZRAM, some other of my Ruby scripts that I wrote for the Raspberry Pi. So if you don't want to have an actual command line like this, if you just want to have something like my Ruby Pi script, that's more of a simplified command line application. So to show you how everything works, if you type in cmd list, as you can see, it throws out all of the commands that I've added to it. So I have the start X, as you can see, because I chose 3 with Raspbian and RetroPie, and then I have I actually have 2 commands for RetroPie. You can type in RetroPie or the default emulation station. Both will work in Rubian. I'll probably do something similar with the StartX. I might just have another one called desktop, so it doesn't matter StartX, desktop, it will both start up your desktop environment. Then Kodi, then cdir, change current directory, mdir, make a new directory, deldir, delete a directory, and then of course ls, try to make it a little bit more simplified, trying to keep it easier for people newer to command line work. So ls, as we can see, I haven't made one for to show you your current directory yet, because by default dir.pwd is the default Ruby interpreter to be able to pull it up. So I did make it a little easier for the Ruby interpreter instead of having to go dir.chdir and then having to type in the full path name like so. To change your current directory, all you have to do is cdir, and as you can see, it prompts with home Pi and then desktop, and it throws a prompt: you are now in the directory that you want it to be in. Do it again, cdir. Test pi ls to make sure. So if we need to make a new directory in dir, it throws the prompt of which directory you're in, and then we can just name the directory as such, whatever you need. And if we go to check it again, it's there. If we need to delete it, and then so other things that we can do, if you need to get to the main menu again, it will throw it out with a new date and time stamp of when it's called. Just to show you how that it does. So 4857. Let's see. The help here is for the built-in help for IRB, which is the main Ruby shell. I didn't try to make another shell environment like how the default bash environment works. Not quite yet, because IRB is already like that. The only difference is it doesn't show your directory tree at your right here where you put in your user input. It shows that you are in the interactive Ruby main shell, line 13, and then it shows you depth of whatever you're doing. Let's go ahead and do cmd list again. So some other things that you can do: updates and upgrades to Pi. You can reboot, and then you can also enter Raspberry config. Another thing, did I add it? Do I have it add on here? If you chose 2 in the installer information, in the installation, it will throw in the retro config in the command line, so in your command list. So you can, just like with the Raspberry config, all you have to do is retro config, and it'll throw it out there. I don't know if I got it set up for the third installation yet. Well, the third option. I'll have to go back. Like I said, I'm still debugging and everything. But you can enter the Raspberry config, disk space. Of course, shows you your disk space. Min split. Free min. So that's the same as doing the whole for the bash command. And I have it set to where it will read in megabytes instead of kilobytes. Of course, you can go into you can check your Raspberry Pi core temperatures. Let's see. You can also enter nano, and there's actually 2 nano commands for the Rubian application. You have regular nano, and then test that. There we go. Just to show you. Nano. Okay, so I still gotta fix that. It's okay though. Test. Okay, there we go. Yeah, still got a few kinks to work out. But you can enter the Nano text editor, and then as you can see up here, there's pseudo Nano. So Nano just works with, just calls the Nano normally, and then pseudo Nano actually does the pseudo Nano command. So like if you're having to work with RC local or bash RC or something that needs the super user permissions, so it's there. So all you gotta do is sudo nano test. CLS. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've got done so far. See anything else? Well, of course, you're in IRB, so as a Ruby developer personally, having IRB, being able to just automatically start up into IRB comes in very handy than having to go into and then just type in IRB. But not only the reason why I chose to go ahead and just use IRB with it instead of developing a brand new shell application is just because that gives you the full capacity of IRB. So we can require TK and build graphic applications in our desktop environments. We can require any gems that we are needed. We have all the functionality that IRB gives us to our disposal with the Rubian gem. So that's what I've been working on. There's still a little bit of debugging that I need to take care of. There's still a few parts that I need to build, but other than that, this is about what was it, two and a half nights of work, and then I haven't touched it in about 2 weeks, and I just spent like an hour and a half tinkering around and doing a little bit of debugging in the code. But I hope you enjoy it. If you have any ideas on what I could add to it in the installer utility for any scripts that might come in handy that everyone would use in general, that might be a little hard for a new user to use, like ZRAM, for instance. I didn't write the script for ZRAM to activate the ZRAM on the Raspberry Pi. Someone else did. But I plan on adding in the install utility to where it works. I'm going to model it off of the RetroPie setup script, to where when you run it, it'll give you a user menu with options, and then you can go in and choose from pre-packaged scripts like ZRAM, to where it will automatically download it from the guy's GitHub site, and then it'll place it where it needs to go, and it'll also write to the RC local file automatically what it needs, and it will do all of the work itself. So you don't have to go in there, do the git clone, get it, then have to do all the modifications to the Linux script, files that, by hand. It will take care of all that for you. So that's what I'm working on. Let's see if there's anything else. Oh yeah, before I do have a clear. I do have a failsafe. So let's say we want to run the installation again. Something happens, you forgot that you downloaded it, or for some odd reason. If you press it, Rubian files found. Do you wish to remove all files to reinstall. See, I need to fix that. Again, like I said, I was up till like 3:30, 4 o'clock for 2 days writing this thing, so I still had to proofread a lot of crap. So it does prompt you if you want to remove all of it for a reinstall. So if we press no, it just exits out. If we press yes, deletes everything. Now you're ready to reinstall it again. So that's how it is. That's what I got so far. I hope you enjoy it. Again, if you have any recommendations, if you have any ideas on what I can add to the installer utility to help new Pi users, that would be a plus. So you can either get a hold of me on my comments, or if you're in any of the RetroPie groups on Facebook, I'm in RetroPie Gaming, RetroPie UK are a few of them. You can get a hold of me there. I do take script requests. I do have I will make small programs for you. And I always wind up having like 20-something odd minute long videos. I try not to. With that being said, I'm about to wrap this up and I'm going to go to bed. Y'all have a good night.